morning and welcome to the May meeting of the Lochaber Area Committee. Please note that this is a formal public Highland Council meeting and is being recorded and will be uploaded for public access via the Council's YouTube site. You are therefore reminded not to make specific references to individuals and to only disclose information which is in the public domain. I also remind members that the chat function is to be used only for placing motions and amendments. Members participating remotely should activate the hand function when wishing to speak, and this function will be monitored. Thanks very much. So moving on to item 1, do we have any apologies for absence?
Just the one apology from Councillor Baxter.
Thank you. And does anyone have any declarations of interest, transparency statements? Councillor Prosser.
I'd like to set out from item 5 due to declaration of interest.
Okay, and you're specifically?
When it comes to the Community Regeneration Fund applications within Highland Park's application.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Prosser.
Sorry, Chair. If the member could just say a few words about the nature of the interest. Why is he declaring interest?
I'm declaring interest because I sit on the board of the Highland Park Community Field Scheme.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Prosser. So moving on to item 3, and we've got, sorry, not item 3, yes.
Yep.
The Scotland Local Committee Performance Report, and good morning to the Chief Inspector Donna Allen. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, and thank you very much for the report. I will hand over to you. Thanks a lot.
Morning all, can you all hear me now?
Yes,
Yes, we can.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, so thank you very much for inviting me this morning. Some of you will be aware of locally the retirement of Inspector Katie Duncan from Fort William. From my point of view, she was an officer who dedicated herself to the partnerships that make things work just that little bit better, so she's very much missed. However, nothing stands still, so her replacement has been identified. And whilst that move takes place, I've also secured the services of an officer who will quite literally hold the fort until her replacement arrives. That's pretty much hot off the press, so we are just pulling the practicalities of getting him into post as soon as we can. And that will again establish the local point of contact at the most appropriate level. So I hope that gives some reassurance that we are making moves towards that. In relation to the direct report, so for road safety and road crime, I'll always say we're very lucky to have a specialist roads policing unit based in Fort William. And I continue to see the efforts that they put in around driver behaviour in particular. In addition, there is a roads policing visitor management plan, which is clearly very relevant to this area. It's a simple fact, in 2023 and 2025, there's an overrepresentation of visitors to Scotland who are killed or injured on our roads. Just some basic figures there. 2023, there was 12 serious and fatal collisions involving visitors. 2024, that number was 17. And 2025, it was down at 11. Relating to Lochaber, 2023 it was 1, 2024 it was 2, and 2025 it was 2. So predominantly in the wider picture, the 82, the A9 and A87, and during daytime hours. More common features are vehicles turning right across the path of oncoming traffic, vehicles travelling on the wrong side of the road, having joined the road shortly before the collision occurred. This clearly caused harm to those involved, but also raises concerns for those of us who routinely travel in those areas. So the delivery of that strategy involves targeted interaction with visitors at key sites near to those primary routes. So I'll be linking in with my colleagues in Roads Policing to make sure that we are represented for the Lochaber area. On a longer term, they also link in with the relevant partners and feed their expertise and experience into the planning processes around road engineering and infrastructure. But clearly that's not something we influence on a short-term basis. But I think it's worth noting a court outcome last week where a German driver was found guilty of causing the death of a motorcyclist by driving dangerously on the 82 in 2022. Particularly notable for me is that German motorist has now been remanded in custody pending sentencing. So it just shows the level of seriousness that is applied to what is going. It's understood what our concerns are, and hopefully we're delivering that better through the criminal justice system. Moving on to the antisocial behaviour, disorder and violence, this will always be the main focus for our officers locally. These figures show a significant increase in common assault over the previous 12 months, but the higher level serious assault down from 17 to 12. The figures in relation to detection have actually improved since those figures were produced, but those are again South Highland wide figures. So I've just taken some notes in relation to Lochaber. We have 166 common assaults recorded during that period. That will relate to less than 160 individual incidents, but always a concern. What I'll be expecting from our new inspectors is a focus on repeat allocations and offenders in the broader antisocial behaviour context and looking at what options we have to focus on this. We already have support from our preventions and interventions officers, and again, we're fortunate to have an officer based in Fort William specifically in this role. For acquisitive crime, within the report, 9 of the thefts by housebreaking or attempts at that offence relate to the Lochaber area. That compares to 8 in the previous period, so we can see a small increase. But what we haven't seen is the same travelling criminal element, which has hit our areas hard in the past, and proactive patrols will continue to deter and disrupt any such behaviour as we go forward. Fraud does continue to rise. A small percentage of these figures relate to what I would regard as old-fashioned fraud, physical fraud, which we understand is things like fraud board and lodgings. Far more prevalent, and Lochaber is no different to anywhere else, is frauds perpetrated over the internet, telephone, apps. Some of these schemes are very sophisticated, there's no doubt about it, but many rely just on pressure and panicking people into carrying out actions they would not, with hindsight, undertake. So we'll continue to support programmes to highlight these schemes, and with the tightening of banking protocols, I'm sure most of us will have seen the challenge that we sometimes get when trying to purchase things online that are reassured, which hopefully has in some cases allowed people just to take a breath and think. But again, the fraudsters still sow the seeds that the only person you can trust is them. So there's still a way to go in this, and a lot of this is going to be around just education and making sure that people are aware of what is going on out there. Finally, I'll cover in terms of the report is the protecting vulnerable people. So I'm confident we have a robust response to domestic abuse, in particular with access to specialist support and appropriate prioritisation given to us, tracing offenders, the application of appropriate protective conditions and presenting cases to court at the soonest possible opportunity. We are victim-led and will do our best to encourage people to come forward and engage with partners, even if they don't feel able to approach police in relation to the abuse that they're experiencing. And that, in terms of the report, I think in serious and organised crime and counter-terrorism, they're obviously fairly self-explanatory, but for the first 4 parts there, I just want to put a little bit of a Lochaber context in it. I'll be in Fort William next Thursday, so always open to anyone if they're wanting to have a further discussion on anything specific that we can't cover today, or just to have a general catch-up. More than happy to put that in the diary as well. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Don. Do we have any questions? Councillor Grafton.
Thank you very much, Donna. Did you say next Thursday you're in Fort William?
Thursday the 21st.
Right. Yeah, I will make a note of that, and I will probably pop in and see you.
Perfect.
Thank you very much for your report. Thank you very much for filling in. Yeah, I sort of met Katie quite a few times, and she was a brilliant officer, and yet she will be missed. Just a few questions on the figures, and thank you for breaking them down for the Lochaber area. That was, again, really useful. In terms of the fraud, was one that I picked up. I think fraud now, at one time it would be locals, it would be people who maybe came from Glasgow. Now we're getting fraud from the Cayman Islands and Greece, and it's like, okay. But I know Google, they put a lot of advertising in that they changed their system to make your individual Google address more accessible. And from the very moment they did that, the amount of fraud calls I got over Google Meet went through the roof. So I know it's sort of more a national thing, but I wonder if, as a local area, we do have any contact with people like Google in terms of making them aware, especially when we've got vulnerable people in the Highlands, just how damaging potentially that sort of action by them can be.
So not locally, that's again something that would be carried out through our cyber crime unit. So they do have the links, and I would imagine it's probably broader than Scotland as well.
Yeah.
So we don't tend to have those locally. For they will see the crime trends, but there's nothing happening in Lochaber that is unique or individual to Lochaber. Yeah. Unfortunately, it is just how crime has moved on over these last few years to very much be not be physical fraud anymore.
Yeah. In terms of that same sort of subject, what are the links with schools in terms of educating the youngsters? And I'm thinking maybe also in terms of, are there any night schools that sort of parents might attend? And sort of what are the links in terms of that, maybe UHI or so on?
So our preventions and interventions officers do deliver in the schools in relation to internet safety. So it's probably the broader piece around any kind of attempt at exploitation more than anything else, but it does cover the wider piece around internet security in the more broad sense. Sorry, I missed the second part there that you referred to as night schools. I was just thinking,
in terms of getting the message through to parents and grandparents, maybe that could go through the kids, but yeah, just because I guess sometimes it's the older people who are a little bit more vulnerable, perhaps.
Yeah, and that's absolutely the target area. You've no doubt about it. Where we're saying that they're trying to panic you into making transactions that you would, if you just took 2 seconds to think about it. There is so much education out there. I'm not sure how much we could deliver locally that would raise that, but it's certainly something I can speak to our prevention and interventions about to understand exactly what it is they're doing with any more vulnerable groups and see if there's anything that we can do to pull it along a bit if there's felt that that's a real gap.
Lovely, thank you very much. Just one more sort of, I guess you might not be aware of this because it's fairly recent. When the price of fuel went up, I know there was certainly one incident in the area where there'd been an attempt to steal from an oil tank in a garden. I've actually had somebody try to pry open my flap on my diesel vehicle, I presume to steal the diesel out of the vehicle. As I say, it might be a bit early, but are you aware of figures in Lochaber area? Has that gone up? Or?
No, it's not come to the fore yet, but I think it's certainly something we've got to be conscious of as these prices continue. That there will always be someone seeking to take advantage of any vulnerabilities. So again, it's that education message about keeping things as safe as you possibly can.
Lovely, thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you next Thursday.
Excellent.
Thanks, Donna. I'll just going back to the road safety, and of course you highlighted the number of visitors that are involved in fatal crashes. So I'm just wondering, is how are the police working with with Visit Scotland, local hire companies, Transport Scotland and the council to try and get the message out about driving in Scotland, in the Highlands, and reduce the number of visitors involved in these serious accidents?
So that is part of that visitor managed, or the strategy that I referred to there, which is linking in with the hire companies and the sites to actually get out there. There is publicity that comes out through various mediums during the course of the busier. So we're now on around that. There's items issued at hire companies. There's the wristbands to drive on the left. There's stickers on for putting on the dashboard. There's various documents that are given to drivers, but it's a moment's inattention that, unfortunately, even with these, can really have such catastrophic consequences. So it will never stop in terms of actually trying to push across that road safety message for visitors.
Yeah, thanks, Donna. Thomas and then Matthew.
Thank you, Donna, and thank you for the report. I've got 3 questions. They're all motor related. The first one was unmarked police cars. I was in the company of a young person who was able to highlight to me what specifically the model was of the current unmarked police car. And it was just, how often do we rotate these? The second question I was wanting to ask was, do the police actually have unmarked police motorcycles? Because I remember reading about Northumbria, I think it was, they deployed an unmarked police motorbike, and it was able to capture quite a lot of evidence to prosecute motorcyclists who were doing things that they shouldn't be doing, because we all will see it this summer, motorcyclists basically driving as if they were on a racetrack. And the third thing I wanted to ask you about, at a Highland level, are we doing anything to go into high schools to reinforce into the young people what are the repercussions of a serious road accident? We've had 4 fatalities of young people in this area. The reason I say the police go in and do it is because a few years ago I saw it done with Pub Watch, which was something totally unrelated, but because the message was delivered by licensees, the kids seemed to take on board what was being imparted to the information and the repercussions of being pub watched. So is there anything like that we could do at a police level or ambulance level where they go in and they highlight the repercussions of an accident and try and get that toll to come down of people, young people being killed?
Okay, so start with the unmarked cars. I don't actually know how regularly those are changed. I would imagine there'll be budgetary constraints around that. So yes, they become known. I mean, I've even seen it on social media when the Western Isles in particular, where the unmarked car has now left the island. You know, it's that kind of thing. The fact is, as soon as you see it, it's too late. Ultimately, would be in terms of offender detection, but yeah, it's an ongoing battle with various social media sites where it's highlighted that the vehicle is in X area just now. But we can only work with what we've got as far as that goes. But yeah, totally take on board the challenge that presents. But if you've seen it, it's probably too late. And that's again with the video recording and things like that. It can be so much more of an advantage and an evidential tool for us now when the vehicles are there. Unmarked motorcycles, I know we have in the past. We have an unmarked, well, we have a lorry as well. Have had a lorry as well. I'll actually go and ask the question around the unmarked motorcycles, and I'll come back to you on that one just to see if it is still a current tactic that we have, because yeah, totally accept where you're going with that one around motorcyclist behaviour. We do have engagement with riders around very similar way when we're talking about the visitor engagement, but there is also already started this year that rider engagement just around that responsible behaviour. It may be that those that engage with us on that basis are probably not those that are going to be engaging in the most irresponsible of the behaviours, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't still try and get the message out. Finally, in driver education, particularly around young people, that certainly was a programme in the past that was carried out, also using families who had been involved with losing loved ones in these incidents. So I'll go and establish if we've got any ongoing programmes just now, just to understand where we maybe do have a gap, and specifically with the tragedies in Lochaber over the last couple of years, which have really hit hard in the high school, really. So I will come back to you on both of those.
Thank you. Councillor Prosser.
Again, thank you very much for your report. I just have one question. So I've had several constituents get in touch with me about the current state of driving on the A82, the Glen towards Glasgow, and the lack of patrols by police. And I was just wondering, how often do you often patrol? Because I don't know if you're aware of the situation, but every single lay-by, every single car park is absolutely full to the brim, and it's now spilling. And myself, I was driving down the Glen 2 days ago, and it's just a bigger accident waiting to happen. And I was just wondering how often you patrol the Glen currently.
I would say it'll be every day within obviously it's a trunk road, so it is a priority, particularly say with the roads policing colleagues there, but it is covered by our own officers too. But we're a victim of our own success in terms of Lochaber and people wanting to be there, and the infrastructure doesn't always allow for the safest, and that's why the officers do patrol that road. So it is definitely getting covered. I can't give you specific details of how often it is, but it's, you know, it's clearly a priority for them. There's no doubt about it.
Thank you. I don't think we have any more questions, so thank you very much, Chief Inspector Allen, for joining us this morning.
Thank you, and I say
And
I'll be in Lochaber next Thursday, so more than welcome to catch up with anybody. And Councillor McLean, I'll get back to you on your specific questions there as well. And Councillor Prosser, if I can get any detail around the 82 patrols, I'll send that on to yourself as well. Okay, thank you very much.
thank you very much. You have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Moving on to item 4, which is the Fort William Common Good Fund annual accounts and proposed budget. And good morning, Lynn. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, and thank you very much for the report. I will hand over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, and good morning, members. The report in your papers presents the 2024-25 annual accounts and the 2026-27 proposed budget for Fort William Common Good Fund, and members are asked to agree the accounts for 2024-25 and approve the proposed budget for 26-27, and I'm very happy to take any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Does anyone have any questions? I'm afraid I've got a couple. Thanks, Lynn. I probably might use if I just sort of work through them. I won't do them all at once. So I think the couple of starting on the budgets, I'm still looking back at the papers that we had at the January committee. I'm still slightly confused at the total income and the costs, because we had the paper from car parking, and the income and the cost still do not tally with what we agreed in the parking, the paper from parking to do with the Common Good Fund in January. So I guess if you could confirm whether the costs that parking we agreed of 4,249.55 for parking, which we agreed they would be would come from the Common Good Fund, whether that is what's gone to the parking, because if so, then our costs can't be 379 as is in this paper we've got today. And the income in the parking paper was 48,750, and yet we've still got an income of 45,720. So where, you know, we were going to, that was all going to be sorted out and confirmed for this paper. So I'm just wanting some clarification on what parking's income and costs are in relation to what is in this paper as a start. Thank you. Sorry for that.
No need to apologise at all, Councillor Willis, and thank you for your question. What I can say is that I have spoken with the accountants, and the accountant has confirmed that the figures in this paper are accurate and are as presented in the annual accounts. Colleagues in parking have been asked to provide members with information regarding the figures that they presented, which were separate from this paper. So I can confirm that the contents of this paper are accurate, and that has been confirmed by the accountant. The accountant also advised that if pending any updates from the car parking team, which of course needs to come from the car parking team, if there is to be anything still due to be paid over relating to the 2024-25 accounts, it would go into the 2026-27 accounts, as the accounting team are now tying up the year end. So I hope that reassures members. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn, and we will have opportunity this afternoon at the business meeting to for car parking to confirm that. Also in the January report, we were told the seawall survey was going to be undertaken during March, which is when the low spring tides were. So just, do we know if this survey has been completed, and when, and will we be having a report coming to area committee? And we've just had the 6-day trials this week, which and they have use of the West End car park for free for the week that they're here, and we have requested that they were that they might consider giving a donation to the Common Good Fund for use of the car park. So if we could have any confirmation whether the 6-day trials will be donating to the Common Good Fund for their free use of the car park for the week that they are here, that would be very useful too. And there was an assessment done of the West End car park by roads, and that is mentioned in, I think it's in the in section 7. So as a pre-existing dilapidation, so roads did undertake a survey of the car park, because we all know the condition is not great. So just if there's any timeline on when operations and maintenance will cover and undertake the work that is required on the surface of the West End car park. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Willis. Yes, with regards to the car park, following discussions with the officers from the Operations and Maintenance Service, it has been acknowledged that the pre-existing dilapidations, such as the damage to the seawall and the surface of the car park, will be looked at, and that survey has been scheduled. I haven't been updated as to whether that has taken place, but I know it was pending. It was dependent on accessibility due to the tides, but that is definitely being planned, but I don't, as far as I'm aware, it hasn't yet been undertaken. But again, that would be for the car parking and that service to update on, and I can certainly ask for that update to be brought to you, members. And with regards to the Scottish 6-day trials, again, I'm aware that the organisation has been approached requesting them to make a donation. I don't have an update as to whether that has happened, but I will follow that up, members, and get some information back to you on that. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much, Lynn. Councillor McLennan.
Thanks, and thanks, Lynn, for the report. It was just, you've touched on it, my favourite subject, I suppose, West End car park and its dilapidations. It's just the second last paragraph of the report. It's understood that once the car park has been made good in respect of the pre-existing dilapidations, it would be reasonable for the common good to contribute 55% of the ongoing maintenance and repair costs, reflecting the common good fund's receipt of 55% of the associated income. Like what I want to do is just protect the common good fund, and you know, if it's repaired, but it's maybe got a life expectancy of 10 years or something, we're saving up a big bill for the Common Good Fund. You know, we've taken over a 50, 60-year-old structure. It is, I'm a bit spike is 55% of the income that we'd be liable to. The way that reads, is that 55% of the bill would be our responsibility? Because we're talking about a piece of infrastructure that is not actually on common good ground. So I just want a wee bit more clarity on just what exactly would be the future liabilities of the Fort William Common Good Fund.
Thank you, Councillor McLennan. Yes, my understanding is that once the car park has been made good from in respect of the pre-existing dilapidations, that it would be reasonable and it would align to the principles around common good that we see in other assets, is that it would be reasonable for the Common Good Fund to contribute 55% of the ongoing maintenance and repair costs, reflecting that the Common Good Fund will be in receipt of 55% of the associated income. But that is, of course, following that once the car park has been made good in respect of the pre-existing dilapidations.
Okay, so we would get a sort of detailed report about how well it's been repaired, etc., and what the life expectancy, and then we could get a bit of comfort for the Common Good Fund going forward, that a good repair had been done that would last quite a number of years. That's just the clarity I was looking for.
Thank you, Councillor. And I also have a further update on the seawall survey. I understand that the seawall survey has been undertaken and a report will be brought to you, to this committee, in August. So I hope that gives further reassurance.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks very much for that, Lynn. That is very positive that has happened. I guess just the final thing that, and I'm afraid this comes back to parking again, that, you know, as part of the costs that parking, there's per bay every year, £53 is taken from, is removed from the income. So I guess, do we know, is this the money that will be used to cover the cost of upgrading the surface of the car park, for example? You know, what is that £53 per bay spent on? Do we know? Does it help towards the maintenance of the car park?
My apologies, Chair. I can't comment on the detail on that, and that is a question for the car parking service to provide you the detail on. So I think that I can certainly field that question back to the car parking team and ask them to provide a response for you, if that would be acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry to put you under the spotlight there. And I know that a lot of these questions are related to more of a, you know, what goes on within the car parking. So I guess, so we were being asked to consider and agree the statement of accounts and approve the proposed budget for 2026-27 as set out in Appendix 2. So are members happy to approve budget? Yes, thank you. And that's approved. And also, but we would be, obviously we've asked a few questions, and it would be great to to have some clarification on some of those questions. Thank you very much, Lynn, for your time this morning and for the report. And
Pleasure. Thank you, Chair.
We look forward to further discussions on the Common Good Fund.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks a lot. Item 5 is the Community Regeneration Fund, and we're assessing the latest round of applications. And Martin Hulbertson will be joining us in the room. And John has just gone to get him. Feeling John's gone the wrong way.
No, yes, see Marie's. Martin's that way. We spoke to him as we came in.
Yeah, but I think he was through there now.
He's moved. Oh,
Yeah,
right.
it's waiting for me. John's
So
still looking for him.
There we
I'm
go.
now going to leave the meeting.
We'll just wait for Councillor Grafton to rejoin us.
Research in the cat farm.
Yeah.
Yeah, how you doing? Yeah, good time to speak.
Oh, you can't on the other way.
One thing about you.
It's all right, I went and got him.
Through to charge with customers.
Anyway, slight confusion there. Thanks very much, Martin, for joining us. I will just hand over to you. I think just going to do a brief summary of the application.
Yeah, I'd do that.
Today, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Chair. Morning, members. So today you have 6 applications before you for the CRF funding. You've just over £282,000 available, and the request is just over 231,000 across the 6 applications. So if all were approved, you would have 50,952 remaining in your budget. These funds are all coastal communities, and as I've said before, they can be carried forward into your 26-27 CRF allocation. The budget for that will not be confirmed until the end of the month following the Economy and Infrastructure Committee. All applications today are technically eligible to approve. They've all been subject to a technical assessment and have been scored in the RAG template that you're all familiar with from previous funding rounds. So, Chair, if you're happy, I'll just go through each one, summarise the key points and seek a decision from you. So the first one is the Island Park Community Field Scale, and they have been offered the opportunity to purchase Island Park in Kinlochleven. They've approached CRF, obviously because it's a local fund and there's strong local benefits from this, and also because the Scottish Land Fund is currently closed, which might have been the other obvious avenue for them to go down to. No impediments to the project starting. Essentially involves one piece of work, and there's a valuation on file to confirm the price that they have been offered for this. Really good evidence of community support and consultation, clear fit with the local plan, both the Lochaber one and the Kinlochleven Place plan as well. I think they've done a very detailed response to the questions in it, and I think the strong benefits arising from it. So happy to take any questions on that.
I think everyone happy to approve. Yeah.
Thank you. The next one is Inverlochy Community Association, and they are looking to upgrade the play park in Inverlochy. The application itself, you may have noticed, contained 2 options for a £40,000 grant and a £51,000 grant. I've brought forward the upper request because there were funds available to you, and essentially that involves replacement of the existing swings as well as other pieces of kit that they want to put in. So essentially it's efficient to do it all within one go. Again, just brief observations. The only reason it was given an amber for project robustness, there was still a little bit of discussion to be had between themselves and the council as to the precise final spec of what they want to put in and the timescales for that. So there's a little bit of a concern potentially that costs might increase a little bit, but they are doing ongoing fundraising and they will essentially work within the ballpark of a £53,000 project, give or take a little bit of variation. And again, just very good letters of support from the community, including local businesses, and 40 odd signatures from members of the local community supportive of a straightforward project. I think happy to take any questions.
Everyone happy to approve?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Hang on, I think. Alistair, you've got your hand up, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Given that the fact that you're considering the applications one by one, I think it'd be appropriate for Councillor Crosshair to be re-invited to the meeting. He declared an interest for the first application, so that's now been approved. So I think it'd be appropriate that he's invited back in now, given the fact that you're going through them one by one.
Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah, that's fine. I guess, will you get in touch with them?
Yeah, if you give me a moment or two.
Just hold there for Martin, sorry. Yeah, but we were like just sort of agree more in bulk at the end. Let's do it this way.
Did say that you've gone for the, is it 53 or 51?
51,000.
So they've got 2,000 essentially.
They have got that in place as well. They've got a small amount in doing ongoing fundraising.
Well, so Matthew's rejoined us, so we can carry on.
Okay, thank you, Chair. The next application is from the Lochaber Mountain Rescue Team, and this is towards the replacement of their current aging mobile control vehicle that they use to coordinate rescue operations. Remarkable level of crowdfunding has been secured for this application, and the request before you is actually 40,000 less than it was initially proposed. So I think that's definitely to be commended. The major difference with this new vehicle is it actually has the potential to double up as an ambulance. It's actually capable of transporting casualties in the vehicle, which the current one doesn't. So that offers a major improvement under the provision that they can do. Again, it's a very well written application. I think the niche nature of the project, there wasn't particularly the need or scope for wide community engagement on it, because the specifications in that are quite technical and specific, and the applicants know what they need essentially. But overall, a very strong application making the case for the need. And I think the improvement from this new vehicle is very evident.
Thank you. And I guess the amount of crowdfunding they've now managed to raise is the evidence of
I've noted that, yes, I've noted that in the support. They have support from the local emergency services and the Belford Hospital, but in terms of wider community support, although not letters, absolutely that level of crowdfunding I think can be taken on board.
Happy to approve. Yeah, and well done to them for the amount. The crowdfunding amount is amazing.
Thank you, Chair. The next one is from the Isle of Egg Brewery. This operates as a not-for-profit community benefit society in the island of Egg. It's been operating since April 22, and in 2025 it basically hit full production capacity. And so they've undertaken a range of work to expand their capacity of their operation. Phase one of the project saw investment in machinery to increase production capacity and also an expansion in staffing. And they received over £40,000 of funding for that from a combination of a social loan and HIE support. They're seeking a relatively small grant of £15,000 to complete the upgrades. This is phase two of the project, which would see the installation of solar panels, battery storage, and a new insulated cold shed. The solar panels will significantly reduce their operating costs, and also importantly, because it's the small electrical network on Egg, it will free up capacity on the network there as well. So that's a significant extra benefit as well for the island. The community benefits are primarily the employment opportunity that the brewery offers, but through this and their expansion, they're also looking to launch what they're calling the Eggality grant scheme, which is basically going to be available to local island businesses to support startup costs, which they'll be able to apply to, and the brewery will use their surplus income to help operate that scheme as well. So probably a more unusual application. We don't often see applications from breweries. But again, it evidenced good local support for the project and good community benefit arising from it, I thought. I'm going to take any questions.
Just one quick question. Does the actual, the new build with the power supply, the solar PV and so, does that mean there will be an extra job in that? Or? They
have taken on an extra job as part of the phase 1 expansion. They've taken on a young person as a trainee brewer.
Right.
And they also make the fair point that their business is year-round in the island for employment opportunities. It's not seasonally dependent. So I thought that was another good point in its favour.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone happy to agree? Yes.
Okay, the 5th application is from Kilmally Community Centre, and they are seeking support to develop a 5-year business plan, which will set out a number of improvement options for the centre. So that's going to look at things like priority repairs and costings over a 5-year period for work that needs to be done to the centre, options for alterations internally, improved online marketing, promotion and bookings, digital communication, governance, and expanding their volunteer pool as well. They're going to undertake a year-long community consultation programme as part of looking at what people want to see from the centre. And it's going to support 2 staffing roles, a centre management function, which will help the day-to-day operation of Kilmally Community Centre, and also a development function which will allow dedicated time to work with these consultants and actually implement the recommendations that come forward. And I thought that was a real strength of the application, making provision for that, because they're allowing for time necessary to engage with the consultants and implement what they're saying, rather than it essentially being something that gathers dust on a shelf. I thought that was a really strong part of the application. I think just in summary about this one, it was evident that there is a heck of a lot of effort has gone into this one. There's very high community support. I received over 80 individual letters of support for this project, which was really demonstrating the local community's support and desire to see the community centre continue. And I think just evident real passion to transform the centre and make it more sustainable. So it was highly commendable in that respect. Put a lot of thought into the application, and I think it shows a clear way forward for the centre to develop.
Everyone happy to support?
Yes. Thank you.
Yep.
Which takes us on to our final one today. This is from Voluntary Action Lochaber, and it's seeking specific support for Valve's 3rd sector support role, their community action team. Other elements of VAL are operating on a essentially self-sustaining basis just now. This aspect is perhaps a little bit harder to make self-sustaining in terms of the income that they can generate from the type of work that they do, engaging with other voluntary organisations. I think it's really important to demonstrate that this grant doesn't just benefit VAL. Obviously it's supporting their staffing, which is essential, but there's knock-on benefits, I would argue, for over 200 local 3rd sector groups as well, from the support that VAL offers them. The application has the backing of the Lochaber Community Partnership. The current scale of the work that they do is set out in the application. It notes there's 224 member organisations, and last year they provided one-to-one support for over 180. and recorded over 660 individual instances of one-to-one support that they offer. So I think that just demonstrates the scale of the support that they offer. The match funding that they have from the Scottish Government does require them to identify other match funding. They've currently been operating from within their reserves, which isn't sustainable. And I think there's a clear case that what this does offers a very wide range of benefit to Lochaber organisations. Happy to take any questions.
Martin. I don't see any hands up. So we all have to watch it.
Yeah, can I make a comment?
You can.
Not a question as such, but a comment. I think you've described it quite well, Martin. I've been sort of involved with Val for many years as a sort of a local charity or group receiving help from them. I think over those times they've developed quite a lot of expertise in terms of the bookkeeping and accounting and so on. So I think that there's a level of expertise within the area, and I'm not sure that's sort of repeated anywhere else. So I think that alone is worth assisting and continuing to work. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Councillor McLennan.
Just to follow on from what John said, that the Voluntary Action Lochaber, they're like the lubricant that keeps a lot of things working in Lochaber. They're there. We don't really appreciate what they do. But I was on the board for a number of years myself. They have a vital role, and we should definitely support them.
Thank you. Councillor McLennan. Councillor Prosser.
Yeah, I'd just like to follow on as well and show my support for Val. I think it's Voluntary Action Lochaber a great benefit for all the charities and community groups in Lochaber.
I think so. I think looking like we're supporting this application. Thanks, Martin. And thank you very much, Martin, for all your work and for all the support and help that that you've given in the organisations with their applications. A lot of work has gone into this, so thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing all these projects progressing.
Yeah, we'll get the offer letters out to them in the near future, and then the next big thing will to let you know next year's allocation as soon as we can.
Yes, yeah. Fingers crossed. Yeah. Thanks very much,
Okay.
Martin.
Thank you, members.
Cheers. Bye. So, item 6 is the Lochaber off-street parking place order, and we've got Bartlett has joined us online. Thanks very much, Ross. Thanks for the report, and yes, hand over to you.
Thank you, members. Good morning. So today's report is basically to conclude the consultation for the decriminalised parking order for variation 4 for the off-street car parks. In the order during the consultation was launched with statutory consultation on the 24th of November last year, and it was publicly advertised on the 12th of December 2025, closing on the 12th of January. Now, during the course of that consultation, we received 45 objections. 41 of those were against the inclusion of West Bay in Malig, and 4 objections were related to Camastarik. During the process of, we've removed the West Bay car park at the moment from this order so that we could progress with the other car parks to bring that forward separately. And with the 4 Camastarik objections, we've managed to have 2 of those withdrawn through making slight changes, namely the prohibiting vehicles from 10 PM until 6 AM. Because a lot of the concerns were related to overnight parking. Now, 2 of the objectors have failed to withdraw their objection, although we believe we have got suitable mitigations in place. The objections are in full, although redacted, with names in the appendices for your consideration. And what we're asking today is for members to approve the making of the traffic order, regardless of the fact that there are 2 outstanding objections. You can, however, tell us to abandon the making of the traffic order, or defer a decision, or ask us to amend the traffic order. And as long as it's not more restrictive, we can do that without further consultation. So I will now ask if you have any questions.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks very much, Ross. Certainly makes sense to me, and I think very good to see the restricted overnight parking in the Camastar car park. And I guess work can carry on with the West Bay car park in the future. And does anyone have any questions?
Coming back to this afternoon. Yeah.
No. Okay, and so it looks like we have members are happy to agree the recommendation to approve the making of the parking place order. Thank you.
Thank you, members.
Will these car parks be coming online this season? Because obviously we have been waiting many seasons.
Yes,
for
I
this
have
income to be able to come into the area.
I have the pay machines are sitting in the office in Inverness. They were ordered some time ago now. We ordered them back last year. And so all I have to wait is the statutory period. I can't remember what it is for to challenge a decision at committee. I'll get the order made with legal, so that only takes a kind of week or so. So I hope to have them in kind of in the next 4 to 6 weeks, pending being able to actually get them on the ground.
Excellent. That sounds very, very good. And we look forward, because obviously these new car parks, 50% of the income will be coming back to use in the area, which is what we've been waiting for several years now.
I will detail, because a couple of the car parks obviously aren't fully council, but I will detail all the splits in the next kind of committee paper talking about the income for the car parks. Excellent. Just so that you have a detail of what to expect next year.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks very much, Ross, and that's very good news. So thank you for all your work to get it going for this season. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Item 7 is the Area Roads Capital Programme update, and Kristen is going to join us in the meeting. And Councillor Grafton is just getting Kristen. So just brief delay. Good morning. Thanks, Kristen, for joining us. I'll hand over to you. Thank you very much for the report.
Thank you. So the report that's been submitted today is update 25-26 on year 25-26 Capital Roads Programme, and the paper is submitted for members to note the final budget allocation for year 25-26, note the completed works on the list, and approve the additional works on the list. So there's 19 schemes in total, 14 schemes require approval. And the reason why there's 14 is because we moved our surface dressing programme to resurfacing, so it shows quite a larger scheme list. And this list is updated from a series of data, whether it's customer complaints, member complaints, safety inspection, scrim data, and deterioration where temporary pothole works. It's beyond repair. So it's to get approval from them lists. That list today, which covers sort of strategic B and C, and some U-class roads, which is really positive that we're actually managing now to make improvements to some of the U-class roads, which probably in the past budget constraints would have meant that would have been incredibly difficult. So yeah, so that's the paper, and I'm happy to take any questions or queries on it today.
Thanks, Kristen. There's Any questions? Councillor McLennan.
Thanks, and thanks, Kristen, for this report. Kristen, if you were to carry a figure around in your head, we're going to spend £2 million here. That's what we've given as our share. Roughly, what would you say is the actual amount we need? I think it's 10 or 12 million, but just for our benefit, so that we know, like, the outstanding amount of works that should be done or could be done as to what we've actually got. We've got about 2 million to spend, but we really need about 12. Is it something like that?
I mean, I think the issue with roads is that it's basically evolving, you know. So you could have 12 million and you could spend that in 2 years, but then you could have a development. You could have it could be a, you know, there could be something that could crop up basically that you haven't got on your list that maybe becomes a priority, whether it's through an area of road that, you know, was okay 2 years ago and now it's not. So it's a bit almost like, I kind of explain it like sort of running a house. There's always maintenance, you know. You're never going to fix everything and it's going to be permanently fixed. It's always needing maintenance money, maintenance, improvements, drainage, road markings, and I think Lochaber, the winter that we've just went through, constant rain, 6 months. There's road marking that we laid probably about 18 months ago, and it's now needing refreshed. So it's evolving in that way, that the list is dynamic and it's never going to be that's the money and that's going to improve everything.
Like, I know it's like we have a considerable amount of work that needs to be done. We've only got a small amount of the money to actually spend on it. But getting back to the, as you raised, the winter we've had, I just wanted to place on the record my thanks to you and your team, because there was a particularly bad pothole that appeared up in Upper Akintor. I reported it to you. You went out and got it patched up temporarily, and then 2 or 3 weeks I went past it again to find that the whole road had been repaired at various potholes. So, but thanks, because that is one of the main arterial routes in Fort William, and we need to be on top of it. And just thanks for getting out there and getting it fixed.
Yeah, no problem. I'll pass that on. I think that was actually work that was programmed, but as I say, the weather constraints over the last 6 months has been pretty vast for the teams, trying to keep up with sort of temporary potholing, and our capital programme obviously just started there again April the 1st, so busy year ahead.
Councillor Rosso.
So I just wanted to follow up on what Thomas was asking there. I was just wondering, like, do we have any figures on how much temporary filling in of potholes is costing the council?
We're about probably £100 a tonne. So depending on, you know, what road we're on, you know, you could put, say, a pickup, you're maybe 1 or 2 tonnes in each pickup, if depending on the max gross weight of a pickup. So, you know, it depends on your length, your width, what needs cut out for your repairs. But an actual figure on how much, you know, we've spent maybe over this winter, I couldn't give that today. We would have to look at sort of material invoices and such like. But I would imagine, you know, we do spend quite a lot on temporary potholes. But the benefit to that is that we're not getting claims. Cars aren't getting springs and damaged tyres. So it's quite an important maintenance operation that we try and keep the roads, you know, the pavement layers correct until we can get permanent repairs. And last year in particular, we had the Breedon's Banavie quarry closed down, so that put a lot of constraints quarry wise. So this year Leafs now has started up. We're using hot material from them. They just started up this month, Leaf Tour Lundy. So that's really good news that we've got a local quarry this year. Our nearest quarries were Benoit and Daviot, So you're talking, for a 7 ton hot box, you're talking probably an hour each way. And then you're trying to do the work, obviously, within 8 to 4:30 or so.
Yeah, thanks, Kristen. And then Councillor Grafton and Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Kristen. Thanks for the report and thanks for coming. I'm looking down the list and you've got structures, 100,000. That
100,000, yeah.
That seems like quite a small amount. Is that specifically for bridges? What sort of area does structures cover? And well, how much is 100,000 going to make a difference?
So that's that 100,000 is distributed from I think it's the E&I committee and Lochaber, because we actually have more structures than other areas, get 100,000. So quite a lot of that is just general maintenance. So it could be vegetation clearance, maybe a bit of repointing on some bridges and sort of smaller structures. That funds isn't enough capital money to actually, renew bridges. So that falls to the structures team for their allocation through their capital programs. And that was last year, so it's the same this year. It's 100,000 again this year.
Cameron.
Yeah, back to potholes once again. First, I'd like to say that I've been dealing directly with Stephen Edwards, who seems to be doing a good job.
Yeah.
And getting potholes and drains and things sorted out fairly quickly. My biggest concern is that so we changed the recipe, for lack of a better word, probably, of the tar that we're using, because inevitably it lasts about 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And then it breaks up.
Yeah.
And then we're back to square one again. I'm just wondering if there's a reason for that.
Nope. No reason. The material's the same. It can be the way the operation is laid, obviously. Better you lay it, the better the drier the road, the better the conditions it'll last. If it's rolled, cut out, if it is quickly tampered in and, say a main route through Cove, for instance, or Inverlochy, it is temporary. It's you're having to go back. But the benefit is if we don't temporarily infill it before we permanently hot patch, you will end up with the whole extending. Yeah, you're going to have people with.
I'd like to offer a suggestion that perhaps we should spend a bit of money having all these drains sorted out.
Yeah.
Because
the gullies.
All these gullies are definitely knowledge. We only have one machine through the whole of the Highland region. I don't know if that's still the case or not. But we used to have a full-time guys on a machine based here, going around clearing gullies and all the rest of it. The guys will come along, they'll tar around the drain, they'll stop it from banging in the middle of the night or whatever it's doing. But because it fills up with water, next thing you know, the tar's in.
Yeah.
So is there any moves afoot to start clearing these gullies?
It's one machine that's shared. So at the moment it's shared between Lochaber, Baden and Strathspey. It's the same men that are doing the potholes, that are needing to do the hot patching, the resurfacing, the surface dressing, that need to do the gullies. So, there isn't.
How things have fallen.
Yeah, there isn't the same squad, if you like, that could move to capture all the drainage in the gullies. I wish there was, but there isn't. Not at the moment anyway.
Yeah.
But
surely prevention's better than
it is. It is, and I mean, certainly for us, getting the drainage off the road, keep the ditches clean, offlets off the road, rodding gullies, between sort of drainage and scrub over this winter following the storms. That was, sort of a priority. But getting the gully machine in working, it's a resource as well, so you're trying to
move.
I
just can't help thinking that
in
the long term It's got
Sometimes there can be, there can be a section or a gully that's problematic, and it's needing more work than just pond and water as well, but certainly, yeah, the drainage is a massive priority, and there hasn't been one squad that's worked the gully emptier since I arrived at the council. I don't know what it was like before.
So there was two guys full time on it here at one time. And they just went around the whole area constantly. And anyway, there we go.
Good old days. Councillor Prosser.
Aye, sorry, just to jump on what Councillor Cameron was saying as well about potholes. It's a regular complaint what I get at community council meetings and off the average person on the street. I was just wondering, I know there is a method of reporting it. I was just wondering if there's any way we can circulate exactly where people go to report their section of pothole. I know obviously you've already got that in place, but I even tried looking on the Highland Council website and it's unless you're directed, it's quite hard to find. And it sounds to me that roads are fighting a losing battle. So it'd be good if the public were more aware of where they'd go to have a reporting portal, basically. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's something, corporate comms could maybe do some extra media releases so that people are pointed to the online portal, which we can report a roads defect, whether it's through the phone or the CRM system. So there is, there's measures there that the public can use. It might not be the easiest to navigate, but maybe corporate comms could push that noticing more often. We usually do put out quite a lot of noticing at the start of winter, for the winter maintenance, route plans and potholes. But yeah, it's a corporate comms function rather than roads.
I suppose, Kristen, if the link to the reporting portal could even just be shared with local members.
Yes.
So, and Councillor Prosser hasn't been able to find it, then at least he could, share it with people that are asking him. So that will be a good start, and we could, perhaps go back to court comms and ask for a.
Certainly in the winter months, when we have got.
Yeah, thanks. I guess I've just got a more general question, just looking obviously in Appendix 1, and we're being asked to approve the obligated approval for works that have been done, and that the first 5 items on that were approved in 2024. So I guess my question is, given obviously we've got some roadworks from 2024 and then a whole lot of homologated approval, does this mean that work that was approved in January 25 and January 26 reports, is the work from those still to be undertaken, or has that been undertaken? And I mean, I understand obviously it's dynamic. You've mentioned flexible weather issues, etc. But just looking at the dates in this and what we're being asked for homologated approval, what we've agreed in previous committee meetings, and also, so I think every one of the sections it talked about 2025-26 total investment of 21.15 million.
Yeah.
What of that has already been spent? What remains, and how much work, given the homologated work, how much work will be done that was agreed in the area committee reports from 25 and 26?
Okay, so there was 3 schemes that moved from 25-26. That was the Lochaber Road, Braemore Place and Kennedy Road, 2 for weather constraints that are actually happening this month. And Lochaber Road, that was a substation. I think I put that on a previous report. that we were waiting on SSC to come back whether they were going through the public carriageway or the footpath. So then 3 schemes moved that on to this year. I'm actually just wondering if that date's correct, that committee approval date. I think it is, but I'd have to look back. So everything that was on 25-26 committee, apart from them schemes, are complete. These are now extra because we didn't do surface dressing. So that's, you know, that's up the resurfacing side. And then our January 26-27, apart from them 3 schemes, should be everything that was there on approval.
I guess perhaps or if you could update members, you know, given what is in this appendix and the date, if we could just, perhaps have an update. On how this ties in with committee meetings between 24 and might be quite useful.
I don't think I printed the
because obviously we're being asked to homologate quite a lot, so it'd be nice to know how that relates to previously agreed. Everything works.
I mean, they are all on that master spreadsheet, each one of them schemes.
I guess with the master spreadsheet, perhaps we could just
I'm just looking at it here.
of that.
Yeah, that was in the January 26-27.
Just I'm not expecting you to.
No, we'll come back to it. Whether, you know, how do you want that, whether it's
I think that would be quite useful because then it gives that overall picture and how it relates back to, you know, what we've agreed at previous committee meetings. Just, you know, it was sort of back 2024 and then that was like what's happened to all the rest in between there. Thank you, Kristen, for that. I don't see any other hands up. So thanks very much for the update and all the good work the team is doing. We appreciate it's a challenging and never ending job.
Yes.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I think they all agreed to agree the recommendations of that report. So item 8 is the Corran Ferry update, and we've got Richard Porteous has joined us online, and so thanks very much, Richard, and thanks very much for the report. And and we've got Murray Bain has joined us too, thanks, and Andrew McDougall. So thank you all for joining us. Thanks for the report, and I think I'll hand over to you, Richard.
Good morning, Chairman, members. Yes, so thank you. This is the Corran Ferry update report, which we now bring to every Lochaber committee. So it comprises an update on the Corran Ferry service and the capital improvement works, which comprise the Corran Ferry infrastructure improvement scheme and the Corran Ferry new electric vessel. And the latter two updates have been provided by my colleagues Andrew and Murray, who are also attending, and they'll be happy to take questions on those elements. So I'll just start with the operational update, and then they'll be able to take over from there. And that's the appendix to the report, the way that it's been provided. So the Corran Ferry operations is basically all fairly self-explanatory in the report. I'm pleased to say at the moment the service is operating business as usual. The report describes the works that have gone on for the MV Corran's last refit and now the Maid of Glencool's current refit. The MV Corran at the last refit, there was significant works involved with the Voith propulsion unit overhaul. There were ramp repairs, particularly strengthening the forward quadrant of the aft ramp. And there were some small deck patches required as well. So ultimately it took 5 months before she came home, but thankfully we did get her back just in time before Easter. At the end of the report, actually, it mentions winter weather and gives a description there of the various outages associated with weather, which thankfully were fairly minimal for the Corran Ferry. The strong winds in March did have a huge impact on the wider ferry network. In terms of general outages, not associated with weather, but associated with breakdowns, I was just having a look back at the records, and if you discount 2023, which obviously was a bad year in terms of lack of service, if you discount that year and look at every other year over the last 10 years, the average days of no service due to breakdown is just 2.5 days per year. So notwithstanding 2023, the Corran Ferry's record is still continues to be good in terms of service delivery. Particularly when you compare it with the wider ferry network, which is obviously experiencing considerable issues over the last few months, particularly. So that's a bit about the vessels. Obviously open to questions. That was the MV Corran, the Maiden Cool. This refit coming, as discussed at the stakeholder group. We're going to be doing some improvements to the flaps on her ramps. In addition to that, though, we have to do some wiring replacement. They've got significant steel patching on the hull of the Maiden Cool, so that's all ongoing at the moment, and some superstructure repairs as well, more steel repairs. But we're expecting that all to be completed within 2 to 3 months, so she should be back home in decent time. In terms of crew, we have a few vacancies at the moment which we're filling. We have our marshals in place, and we got them in place just in time for Easter, I'm pleased to say. It's a trial, the marshals. We're always looking at ways to improve productivity in that regard, and it ties into another section in the report which mentions the ticketing project. So in the future, we hope to be able to maximize productivity all round in terms of staffing on the deck, on the shore, and that's, comprising 2 functions really, which is traffic management on the deck and in the queue for vehicle and passenger safety, and also taking fares on the deck. And it's currently only on the deck, but as we improve the ticketing system, we hope that we may be able to do that on the queue as well and still be productive, and in terms of processing sales and for tickets, but also productivity in terms of shoreside staff. Yeah, so lastly, perhaps before I ask for questions, is the ticketing project itself. So it does indicate in the report that there, we haven't managed to progress that as quickly as we would have liked, but it is progressing, and it is a live project that we will deliver on, having, it has been in the pipeline for a year or two, as has been highlighted already. But I'm pleased to say that there were delays with the supplier. There is a purchasing framework which allows us to, for a fairly straightforward add-on to the existing contract, in order to get a modern online option to purchase tickets. There was a delay recently with the supplier, but they've resolved that, and we now have a quotation. So things should move very quickly now. So that's an exciting time in terms of the ticketing project, and the commitment is to keep members and the community fully involved as we do that. I was listening there to the earlier report, and an online feedback portal was mentioned, I think, by Councillor Prosser, and I can confirm that we've been speaking with the team that's behind the new council engagement platform, which is called Go Vocal. If you go online and look at Stirling Council or Falkirk Council, they actually have theirs up and running already, and it's intended to be a bit more of a one-stop shop for all things in terms of consultation and feedback. So we've we may well be using that when it comes to that element for the ticketing project over the next few months. And I've already been engaging with the Go Vocal team within the council. So yeah, I'm quite interested in that. It looks like a great asset for the council and an improvement for the council as a whole as we look to the future and modernise the website even further and have a really streamlined, modern way of communicating with customers, in our case, passengers. Thanks, Chair. Hope that was clear, and happy to take any questions.
Yep. Thanks very much, Richard. Councillor Prosser.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Richard. I just had the one question, and it was about the Easter and the lack of marshalling during the start of the Easter holidays. Now, I got caught up in it myself, and I had several complaints about it. I was very surprised to find that we had absolutely no one on the ground, and myself had to phone the police, which when the police came out to take full control of the situation. I was just wondering, have we learnt from this mistake, and are we putting procedures in place when we know, especially with, I know the Scottish 6-day trials was on last week as well, and that caused further issues with people on the road. The Easter holidays didn't help that there was traffic lights just after the junction of the Corran Ferry, which made it extremely dangerous for overtaking traffic, meeting oncoming traffic in the middle of the road. But I would just like to know we have learnt from our mistakes and we have precautions in place for next time there's a bank holiday over summer or any other upcoming event. Thanks,
Councillor Prosser and Chair. Yes,
Yes.
we definitely learned from that, and we had and appreciate your input on that one. Thank you. And yes, we had a good deal of extra staff in place for particularly Thursday last week when all the 6-day trials were planned to come across. So that really paid off and made things go a lot smoother than they could have been on Thursday if we hadn't done that. So yeah, that definitely paid off. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Any other questions? Certainly, it's good to see the flip boat is now in service. Thank you for that. And I guess thank you to CRF funding for funding a large portion of that. I was just noting in the appendix that there's talk about mitigation in relation to otters, and also I gather there's been mitigation activities regarding the guillemot nesting boxes. I wonder if you could provide any more detail on what these mitigation works have been, etc.
Thanks, Chair. And I see Councillor McLennan has his hand up as well. But I'll have to hand over to my colleagues to answer that question. Thanks.
Whoever's going to answer that.
With the mics off.
Andrew, I think you're on mute.
Apologies. Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, members. Yes, regarding the mitigation for the otters, as part of the pre-construction works, the protected species surveys that identified there was an otter holt within the boundary of the works. So we had to do create an exclusion zone, and also we had to do some monitoring and also in consultation with Nature Scott. So we had to apply for certain licenses, and as part of the monitoring, we did a scope survey of the holt, and it was found that it wasn't a natal holt. There were suspicions that it might be, but it wasn't. So just through our communications consultation with Nature Scott and the contractor, and my colleagues that are working down for overseeing the construction works for the council, it was agreed that the restriction could be lifted, but to continue monitoring for the otters. So everything's been done in accordance with the appropriate regulations. And similarly with the guillemots, we'd followed the regulations, the practices for that. There was concerns from the community on how we went about that, but it was reviewed by our environmental consultant, and it was confirmed that we were doing everything in accordance with the requirements and the regulations. So the guillemot boxes, there'll be new ones located once the new structures are built there.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. So is my understanding with the otters is that they're not actually in the area, or were they in the area and they are not now, or are they still active?
They're still active. They haven't been using the that holt as like a for breeding or that, and there's been no cubs identified. So, but we continue to monitor any movements within the area.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor McLennan.
It was just marshalling again. Could I highlight that we need to sort of be aware and observing both sides, because there's a couple of complaints about what was going on the other side, at our Gower side. That there was no monitoring or marshalling being done, but basically that we need to obviously keep an eye on the A2 and stop it backing up onto the main trunk road. But we need to also try and keep an eye on what's going on their side with all the building works that are going on. It's maybe brought a different dynamic to the traffic movements over there, but we need to keep a good eye on that. And I suppose, like me and Kate, we've been sort of dragged into a parking issue that we've never made any comment on, stemming from the South Planning Committee. But basically, me and Kate have never mentioned perpendicular parking or parallel parking in any way, shape or form. So I'd just like it on the public record that we've never mentioned it, we've never said it, we've had nothing to do with it. We were just commenting on the principle that parking at Corran Ferry has always been open to the peninsula and to local constituents. And that it should continue like that.
Yep. Thank you very much, Thomas, for highlighting that. There wasn't you didn't have a question, did you, Thomas?
Basically, just to highlight these two things, that we need to be on our game with the monitoring and the parking. We've never contributed to it.
Yep. Thanks, Thomas. So I've got one, I think probably a question for Murray in relation to the procurement of the electric vessel. I think in section 2, it's saying the development design of a new tender is progressing. So is the design still not finalised as part of the small vessel replacement programme, or what? So what stage is that at? Thanks, Murray.
Yeah, I can answer that, Chair, no problem. So good afternoon, members. Yes, so we actually do have a general arrangement drawing design in place that's standardised with the small vessels replacement programme. So that general arrangement drawing is now ready to be taken to a shipyard. And so we've also got the agreed partnership with CMAL that's been formalised through Alishaw Goddard shipping lawyers. So the council has signed up to that. So we're moving forward with that partnership with CMAL and looking to get the tender out for that this year, with a view to awarding a contract to a shipyard in March next year. To follow on with the the completion of the infrastructure works and the shore power works. May 2027 for infrastructure, shore power in September 2028, and vessel to follow on after that.
Thanks. Thanks, Mary. Yes, Councillor Grafton, Saggers.
Sorry. He doesn't speak very often. No, I'm just interested in the flit boat. We have a statement, a statement. Yes, it's there, but you know, how's it working? The crew's enjoying the whole sort of modern and basically, how's it working? Do you have any pictures?
Excellent. Good question.
I'm happy to answer that. Thanks for the question as well, because I'm aware that I failed to mention that in my summary at the beginning. So yeah, we're extremely grateful to have the new flip boat. It does exactly what it says on the tin. It's got this great new access platform on the front, which makes the operation of transferring the crew to the ferry and back again every morning and every night it's a considerable improvement. And so we're delighted to have that. The boat itself is an upgrade to the existing the old vessel, so it's not all the crew are totally familiar with it. It's taking some time to make sure we do all the appropriate training for all the crew that need to use it. So that's a little bit of work in progress still, but and I haven't got a picture with me that I could quickly put up on the screen, but no, it's going to take me too long to find it, I think. But what I'll do is the plan is to finalize the completion report, if you like, for Martin, who oversees those projects. And so once that's done, that'll be done very shortly, and pictures and everything will be supplied with that. And there will be an opportunity for more photographs if anybody wants to get involved with that as well. So we'll continue the dialogue there with yourself, Chair, and we'll see what we can do there. Thanks.
Thanks, Richard. When was it brought into operation? How long has it been in operation now?
Oh gosh, we've now got it down on the loch. I think it's been 3 weeks. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Richard. I don't see any other hands up, so thank you, Richard, Murray, and Andrew, for joining us today and for the update report. I think we were just for noting, so yeah, thanks very much and have a good day.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Thank you, members.
Bye.
Item 9 is the housing management report, and we have Elaine Wilkinson has joined us online. Thank you very much, Elaine, for joining us today, and thank you very much for the report. And I will hand over to you.
Good morning. Thank you, members. Yes, I will give you a brief talk through the Q4 report for the housing management elements and homelessness for Lochaber area. You'll have seen the figures already, so we are quite happy with them, particularly based on the figures, the overall rent arrears compared to this time last year. Despite the addition of new stock, we've managed to pull the numbers down quite significantly from the same time last year. So we hope to continue that trend, keep it going. Because we've pulled them down so much, it will be an ongoing battle to maintain the levels, but the team are dedicated to working away at them and supporting the tenants as best they can, signposting to get the support that they need to sustain their tenancies. In the table 2, you'll see that we are across all quarters. We have been below in Lochaber the Highland benchmark. So again, we continue to perform well against other areas across Highland. Again, more hard work from our management officers particularly, and also feeding in from some of the support services that we get. They really do help us with maintaining that as well. The table 3, it just breaks down the value of cases that we've got. So once again, you'll see that we've got a high number that are under £500. And with the current benefit system, particularly with universal credit, we work really hard to try and get people to a point where they are paying in advance. But when tenants are on a low income, it can be very difficult to pull that down, and it can take years to pull it down so that they are paying in advance. But we continue to plug away at that. Table 4 gives the breakdown of the notice of proceedings issued and the court actions that we have put forward for each quarter. It's probably worth noticing that whilst we've not had any evictions, we have taken people through the court process and we have been awarded evictions by the courts. What the team have done at that point is, unfortunately for some tenants, they only really start to engage with us when things do get very serious. So for those eviction cases that we've had, we've worked really hard with the tenants, and we found other solutions for them. So it's meant that we haven't had to actually go through with the eviction, whether it's been, working with CAB or coming up to other agreements with them. And we're quite pleased with the success that we've had, because obviously eviction it's the last thing that we want to do. So we're happy to hopefully keep going with our 0 evictions, but that will probably change into the next quarter. Our antisocial behaviour stats, whilst it looks like there's been a bit of a jump in quarter 4, and on the ground it certainly feels like there has been a jump. Some of this will be down to the elements of when things are reported, and so it's reasonably consistent. But there have certainly been a few blips in the last month, which we are ongoing cases that we continue to work with and looking at different solutions for the people involved. We're working with there's an antisocial behaviour officer in Inverness, so she supports if need be, but the team are becoming more experienced now and confident in dealing with matters frontline, just within the Lochaber area. On to section 8 and table 6, homeless presentations, they continue to be quite consistent for us. There's not really been a huge change, and we continue to try and find solutions for people. The best solution that we can as quickly as we can. Unfortunately, this can take time, particularly when people are restrictive as to where they want to be, whether it be for reasons of work, for children. There can be many reasons why that time can drag on a little bit longer than we'd like, but they do remain to be quite good compared to some of the more higher density areas like Inverness, where they've got other issues going on. There's no big change really in that the demand that we have is for 1 beds. We don't have a huge amount of 1 beds in Lochaber. So again, we're looking at ways to try and move anybody that needs a move to get them to the best property for them. It helps with things, like the running cost of it. We don't want people to be in homes that aren't going to be manageable for them. Nobody likes to have high electric bills, as I'm sure we all know. And table 9 touches on all the allocations that we've had. And they're quite consistent. We've not had new builds within our stock. LHA, they've had new builds in the quarter, so there'll be an impact from their new builds when they take transfers and we have the voids and we start moving people around. But we have worked with them quite closely to try and get people on the best solutions that we can for them. And that really is my whistle-stop tour. Are there any questions?
Much, Elaine. Any questions? Councillor Prosser.
It's not so much of a question. I would just like to say thank you to Elaine and to her team. I'm not sure if everyone's aware, but we have a house and surgery drop-in on a Thursday, and I've been told that by many people going to it, what has helped them with many issues. Also, your your housing management officers are going out to rural areas and having drop-in sessions as well. I just wanted to acknowledge the hard work what you see in the housing team, and it's good to see representation of the council in small areas and able for my constituents to go and have a conversation with a housing management officer on I think it's a monthly basis. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and say thank you very much.
I appreciate that. Thank you. It's been well received, and the team have enjoyed it as well. It's nice to sometimes be delivering good messages and catching up with people, as opposed to delivering tougher messages, which we quite often do. So thank you. I appreciate that. And you're all welcome to come see us.
Thanks, Elaine, and thanks for highlighting that, Councillor Prosser. You mentioned it at the end, I was going to ask whether there's been an impact of the various new house builds that have gone on in the area, but you did, you mentioned that at the end, so I won't say more. No other questions? So, yeah, thanks, Elaine, for coming along for the report and for all the good work that the team are doing.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
And you. Thanks all.
Thanks a lot. Item 2 and members noted recommendations. Item 10 is the environmental health annual report and activity, and we've got Beatrice Aiken has joined us online. So thank you very much for seeing us this afternoon, Beatrice, and thank you very much for the report. I'll hand over.
Afternoon, everybody. I will share a quick presentation with you, if that's okay. Just let me know if you can see that, okay?
Yep. Yes, thank you.
So to kind of, before I begin, Chair and members, before I move into the soft service activity and comparison data, I wanted to kind of briefly set the context for today's presentation. You may recall that the last year Communities in Place Committee considered and approved our operational plan in May 2025, and the activity report was prepared on the basis of that. So the key aim of that report remains the same, as just to raise awareness, seek any feedback, and discuss any sort of local and emerging matters as such. As plan outlines, we cover a wide range of statutory duties on behalf of the council, and our main remit is to protect and improve public health across the Highland. We do so by responding to public health concerns and inquiries, or any business inquiries, by regulating businesses and any sort of licensed activities across Highland, and also taking enforcement action if necessary. And we do so by delivering proportionate balanced, doing proportionate balanced work, and it's all risk-based. And we also do this in line with locally embedded principles of 4 E's, which are engage, encourage, educate, and enforce as a last resort. So that's the sort of principles that we follow generally. During the reporting period, the service had a restructure, and previously we operated in the sort of 3 key areas. Now we have only 2, north and south. This change was implemented as part of kind of wider service and resource considerations, with the aim to make the best use of the existing capacity. And under the revised structure, we have now 2 area managers, north and south, who I directly report to the south manager. And seniors are also undertaking more sort of increased role in the operational matters, as well as day-to-day management. And the intention has been to provide greater flexibility and sort of resilience across the service as well. So the report itself remains more or less the same structure. We have split it into the 3 key areas. Our reactive work, which is our service requests, and can be anything. It could be complaints from the general public, complaints or inquiries from businesses, for example. There's also proactive work, scheduled work, which is our inspections and visits to premises or licensed premises, for example. And the last section covers formal enforcement activity, which is relates to any sort of enforcement notices that we might serve, and reports to Procurator Fiscal. The figures cover a period between the 1st of April 2025 and 31st of March 2026. There are in the Appendix 2 of the report if you want to have a look. And also they cover the both wards 11 and 21. There's a slight decrease compared to previous year, and I'll explain in a bit more detail just now. I think the total number was 1,674 service requests. So that roughly equates to about 10% of the totals of requests across the whole of the service. So that's, as I say, slightly lower than the previous year. I've deliberately split this into service requests with regards to short-term let applications and everything else, just to demonstrate that, as you can see, the general trends, which are all normal service requests in orange, are kind of remaining more or less the same, maybe slightly higher than previous year. We had a huge influx of short-term let applications for previous year, but I'll maybe talk about that further down the line. But yeah, the general trend is more or less the same. It's maybe a little bit higher than last year, but not so much. The next two slides I will cover a sort of breakdown of type of categories of work that we do and the corresponding volumes on the right. As you can see, the majority of those are short-term lets, expert health certificates, prior water supply sampling, food safety, abandoned vehicles, and so on and so forth. Slightly lesser numbers are on this slide. However, I would like to note that, you know, although some of these might have not high numbers, we spend considerable amount of time doing work for these. So, for example, statutory nuisance can take a very long time to resolve sometimes, especially if it's going through the legal process. So that takes up a lot of time and effort. In terms of comparison for previous year and this year, I should have probably added a wee note to say that the orange is representing the year 24-25. So this is what I mentioned before. Short-term let licensing was a huge influx of applications the previous year, and that potentially corresponds to the 3-year cycle, as well as the last influx of applications, which were sent as a reminder at the end of 23, I believe. So this is why we had such a huge number compared to this year. But that is likely to change again once we start receiving full-on applications in October for renewal. Expert health certificates have been slightly on a higher end this year, and worth mentioning that general inquiries are slightly lower because I think this relates potentially to better housekeeping. So we are better at the way we're recording data. So now we, instead of just categorizing as a general inquiry, we're making sure that is assigned to appropriate category, and that's why we're potentially seeing a slightly lower numbers just now compared to previous year. Housing related matters were also probably in relation to the licensing period and expiry. This is why we had a wee influx of new applications. I wanted to briefly maybe touch on abandoned vehicles as well in terms of reactive work. The report included numbers and the outcome codes, as you can see in the middle, which kind of raised an eyebrow. I had to do a bit of a background check for transparency because these inconsistencies were identified, and obviously, as again the housekeeping issue, I've revised this data and represent the actual numbers on the right. And if you look in terms of the percentage of those cases and the outcomes, you can see that only about 14% were classed as abandoned vehicles and been removed and destroyed. Everything else sort of self-resolved or has been classed as not abandoned. We're talking 35% to 30% vehicle gone on any sort of revisits. So it's, yeah, large numbers of the reported vehicles are actually not abandoned as such. And I think a lot of work has been going on in the background as well in terms of the way we kind of record data and how we report to you to represent the actual true picture. I think in the previous slide, apologies, I think, yeah, it was a huge increase or significant increase from previous year. However, that relates again to the same issue as the way we record data on our system. And I think previously some of these reports being clumped up under one service request, for example, whereas now we separate them all together. And this is why we probably see that kind of increase from, I think it was 105 to 160 just now. Moving on into the proactive program work. So these are the key sort of regulatory areas of ours that we spend time to ensure the compliance and maintaining the standards across businesses and supporting preventative public health outcomes. So these are the food safety, water sampling, licensing, and health and safety. Health and safety, I'm seeing a little increase just now in terms of proactive program work, but everything else is more or less within what's expected and what's been planned. Moving on to the formal enforcement activity, I think we have a slight increase compared to previous year. But again, we're kind of in line with the 4E principles where we have discussed earlier, where we engage with people first and try to ensure the compliance without taking any enforcement action. This is just as a last sort of resort. All of these notices have been complied with, except for one, which is just the time scales that we are at the moment. So it's still kind of ongoing and active. So a number of local matters are included within the report, and I've picked a couple of examples just to give you a clear kind of sense of the type of work that we are dealing with in practice. One of the highlights this year was the European audit of an approved establishment handling live bivalve mollusks. The audit confirmed that as a service, we maintain very high standards in terms of regulatory oversight, and we were kind of positively recognized for the work that we undertook for compliance. Another matter which I wanted to highlight was a bathing water designation in Ballyhule, which is not something that you probably hear every day. So we certainly haven't had any bathing water designation in the Lochaber, not I'm aware of anyways, and this is the first one. The bathing season starts from 1st of June and lasts until 15th of September. We work closely with SEPA, who monitor the water results and share the information with us. And as a local authority, we have a duty to ensure that we have the right signage on site and making sure that our facilities and places safe for the bathers and free of litter. Anybody can apply for bathing water sort of designation or submit the application for consultation, and is ultimately determined by the Scottish ministers. In terms of the Highland-wide matters, there's a couple ongoing topics here that kind of been discussed previously in the previous report. We have some movement in terms of non-surgical procedures. New order has been approved in February, which is good news. That means that we already have a date in place 6th of September 2027, where all the procedures will be mandatory and have to be licensed. It's a sort of two-tier process. So some of the premises, higher risk premises, will have to be looked after. Highland Improvement, I've forgotten now the name, but it will be two-tier system. So higher procedures will be under NHS, and the lower sort of risk procedures will be licensed by us. And we have now that we have a date, we will be in a position to do sort of preparation work for that. Animal licensing activities, they were expected to be in place this April. However, it's been delayed. There's no date in sight yet, which means we just need to wait and see for further guidance before we make any preparation. However, we're going to continue to monitor this, and we'll act when required. So that's the today's presentation on our report, and obviously we welcome any feedback in terms of the presentation and report itself, and happy to answer any questions if you have.
Thank you very much, Beatrice. I could start. Can't see any hands up. Just a couple of things in terms of I'd like to Ballachulish bathing water designation. Big congratulations to the community group and all the work they did that went into achieving this designation. I'm slightly sort of perplexed and concerned to read in there that says, should water quality results over consecutive sampling periods fail to meet required standards in future years, there is provision for Scottish ministers to review and potentially remove the bathing water designation. This seems rather counterintuitive way. Surely if the water quality standards are failing, there should be actions taken to improve them, not just to and removing the bathing water designation does not seem like the obvious thing to do when the whole idea is to improve water standards.
Yeah, so it's a little bit backwards. It's something that I've discussed with SEPA colleagues as well, because it's not obviously we haven't dealt locally with any bathing water as yet, and it was interesting to see the process, how this is actually happening in practice, and that the sampling and testing happens after the designation has been granted, meaning that potentially if the quality of water is poor, and that happens year on year, that potentially that designation might be removed. So you would want this to be almost the other way around and have the testing and everything else, all the planning beforehand before designating. But this is just unfortunately the way regulations are said just now. But I think obviously there are plans, and we would work with Scottish Water as well as SEPA to monitor and sort of get involved in any pollution incidents and resolve them as and when to improve the quality of that water. So yeah, the work is, the bodies are there to be involved and do the work if needed, if that makes sense. Yes. So the quality potentially will be looked after.
Yeah, well, I know a bit of the history behind this, and it seems the obvious thing is to improve the water quality and deal with the issues rather than just removing a bathing water designation. Yeah, and in terms of the incident at the leisure centre, which investigations concluded was likely due to intermittent disposal of chemicals into the sewer network, presumably following the investigations, this intermittent disposal of chemicals into the sewer network will not be happening in the future. Would that be correct?
So far, nothing, which is positive news, but we can't predict these things. We just have to monitor and make sure that it just doesn't happen. If it does happen, then we'll have to reassess the situation and see if I can identify the perpetrators. But at the moment, it's all positive. It's no issue so far.
Okay, good. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? It's certainly good to see that there have been reductions in the noise levels at VSW, and thank you for all the work that has gone into that. I know it's been it's been a long-term ongoing issue, and it's fantastic if noise levels have been reduced. So thank you very much for work that's happened around with VSW.
Yeah, I think, as I say, it's ongoing at the moment, so I'm limited in terms of the amount of information I can share with you. But, you know, once the kind of legal process allows us to, then we'll be able to update you all. But I'm hoping that we're kind of nearing the end to this, and everybody's interested to get it finished, shall we say.
Yes, definitely. And yeah, thank you. I don't see any other hands up, so thank you very much for your detailed report and presentation, and for all the good work that the team is doing, and I think the members note the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Take
have
care.
a good day.
Thank you. Yep.
Agenda, so moving on. Item 11, committees invited to note the discretionary funds that have been awarded since the last committee meeting. And item 12 is noting the minutes of the January meeting, which were approved by council on the 26th of March this year. And so with that, I will conclude the January area committee, the May area committee meeting. Thank you. Thanks all for your time and input. Sorry, Willie.
Yeah, I just wondering if the members could just stay on for 5 minutes with regards to this afternoon's meeting when the recording finishes, please.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.